This podcast is part of the It Was a Thing on TV podcast network.
An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Time is up. You ran into trouble.
Episode number 597. Submission number 2429. Shaping Up. Shaping Up aired on ABC from March 20th to April 17th of 1984 for 5 episodes. For this installment, we're going to flash back to the early to mid-'80s. Specifically, we're going to focus on one of the very big trends of the era, fitness, aerobics, Jane Fonda stuff, Richard Simmons. It's all very big in the early 80s. Since it's one of the hot button topics of 1984 or the early 80s, you knew somebody was going to do a TV show about it. Enter ABC into the picture, and we have this show titled Shaping Up. Created by Ken Eston, who worked on Taxi previously, but also co-created the Tracy Ullman Show, and Sam Simon, who you all know from a little show called The Simpsons. And originally it was called Welcome to the Club. That's kind of clever. Welcome to the club. It's a health club. Ha ha ha. Hilarity ensues. This health club was owned by a gentleman by the name of Buddy Fox. Conveniently called the Buddy Fox Health Club, was owned by, believe it or not, Buddy Fox. And Buddy Fox used to be sort of like a Jack LaLanne type. He did TV shows where he did fitness, aerobics. So it's very much like Jack LaLanne or Richard Simmons or any number of other people from that era who did fitness and stuff like that. This TV show centered all around the fitness industry, and since it was a comedy, it was funny, maybe. Unfortunately, one problem that we have is there's like next to nothing in terms of this show online. So we don't know how this was. I mean, we've got ratings, which we'll talk about after we talk about the TV show and the episodes and who's on the show and whatnot. The main character in the series, Buddy Fox, played by Leslie Nielsen. And really, if we didn't already have a couple of things slotted for February for Leslie Nielsen's birthday, we would have put this in there. Alas, there's some other shows that we want to talk about.
Well, also, I thought we were going to cover it during the summer when the Naked Gun reboot movie came out, but circumstances prevented that.
Yes, that too. That was actually the original game plan. And as I mentioned in the preview for this episode, I think we have this in at least one or two other spots. And Greg doesn't know this, but I'll take full blame for this. If you remember when we did Work It, we moved that around the schedule 2 or 3 times. That's all my fault because I thought Work It was shaping up. Maybe I did a good thing because Work It is abysmal. I tell you to go back and listen to it, but no, I don't want you to be tortured by that.
Oh no, given our listens of that episode on Podbean, yeah, I don't blame you for not listening to it.
So I think I take the blame for at least delaying this, but also delaying Work It. So Yay. We have a number of trainers at this health club. Young trainers, I should say. Emphasis on young. And probably attractive too. You ever see an ugly fitness trainer? No. So they got to be young and attractive. We'll start off with Shannon Winters. Shannon Winters is played by Jennifer Tilly. Man, where do we start with her? I mean, we can start with Chucky, but I think she's made an even bigger name for herself as Bonnie Swanson on Family Guy, but also playing poker. She is a world-class poker player. And this is not going to be some sort of tie-in with she had a sign card in the Rittenhouse set. No. She had a sign card in the Razor Poker set back in like 2007 because I've got her sign card somewhere in my collection because I bought a box of Razor Poker back in the day. I used to be a poker degenerate. Not in terms of playing, but in terms of watching and enjoying watching poker on TV. Another trainer at this health club, Melissa McDonald, is played by Shawn Weatherly. She played Cadet Adams in Police Academy 3 Back in Training. Yes, I know that's not Police Academy 4, Greg, which I know is the best Police Academy movie of all time. Just got to live with it.
It is the second best, though.
She also played Jill Starbuck on previous entry JJ Starbuck. Something for the Ladies, playing Ben Zachary, another trainer, is Michael Fontaine. Besides 11 episodes of The Edge of Night in 1983, this is about as good as it gets for him. One more trainer, playing Zoya Antonova, is Kathy Sheriff. She played Valkyris in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Yes, I know it's not the Wrath of Khan, Greg. It's just like Police Academy 4. It's not the best in the series, but it's sort of relevant to the fandom there for what you enjoy.
Hey, if you go into the archives, and I will encourage you to listen to this, me and Chico, a couple of years ago, we did a live watch of Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, along with all the other movies with the original Trek crew. So 1 through 6.
That's it for the cast on every episode. There's a couple more names that pop up throughout the series. We'll talk about them when we get there. But for now, we have 6 episodes. I mentioned 5. Looks like there were 5 and 1 unaired episode. So we'll start with the pilot. And the only thing we really have on the pilot is Tim Robbins played the role of Ben in the pilot. Nothing in terms of plot line there. So for the first episode, Tim Robbins is out. You enter Michael Fontaine as Ben Zachary. And you get this. Episode 1 is titled Baby Be Mine. Buddy is disappointed that he never had a child, so he finds a woman who's about to give birth and makes a deal to buy her baby. Ben disapproves. Melissa is morally outraged and Shannon is supportive. And why does this sound like a plotline from Police Squad / Naked Gun? Leslie Nielsen is upset he never had a child, so he wants to buy the baby from her. Just sounds like something you would see on Naked Gun or something like that. Because he does stupid stuff like that. One recurring character who, as far as I can tell, appears just in 2 episodes, but is someone of significance, playing Jerry, don't even have a last name, just called Jerry, is Jake Steinfeld. Body by Jake.
Oh, yes, Body by Jake.
Also, Haley Steinfeld's daddy.
No, Uncle.
Uncle, sorry.
Uncle, yeah, we talked about this.
We talked about it in the Grudge match. Because Haley Steinfeld's daddy was on the Grudge match. Damn, that goldfish brain of Chico's doing it again to us. Oh!
We do have another name in this episode. Playing Vicky, again, no last name given, Elise Beasley. You remember her as Agnes DePesto on Moonlighting. She was like the secretary to David Maddie on Moonlighting.
Yes.
If you saw the face, you'd know who she is.
And you know who she hooked up with on that show. Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. The legendary Curtis Armstrong.
You mean Snot Lonstein from American Dad?
Oh, yeah, that too.
Good on him. Episode 2 is titled Expede Herculeum. I don't get Latin, so I don't know what that means. Maybe the description will tell us what it means. The public's forgotten Buddy since the cancellation of his fitness show, so he decides to lift a Volkswagen as a publicity stunt. Meanwhile, Shannon sets her sights on an expensive apartment and tries to find a roommate. Leslie Nielsen lifting a car. What could go wrong? Besides everything.
Oh, I'd pay to see that. I'd pay to see Leslie Nielsen lift up a car.
We do have one name of note, even though the name that she goes by is not the name you'd recognize her as. Playing a character named Beatrice is Sean Ora Engemann. You would know her better as Sean Southwick. She was married to Larry King. And this is probably late 80s, maybe early 90s. She did like entertainment news updates for the USA Network. Sean Southwick, I remember the name. But I think she'd be better known as Larry King's widow. Episode 3 is titled Diffusing the Muse. When Buddy drags a famous playwright into the club, Shannon goes out of her way to impress him in hopes of landing a role in his next play. Buddy plans an ad campaign for the club, and Shirley tries to get Jerry to notice her. Jake Steinfeld returns as Jerry in this episode. Another name in this episode beyond Jake Steinfeld, playing Wayne Lewis, is Derek McGrath. He was in Police Academy 4 Citizens on Patrol. There we go. Made it up to you, Greg. He played Butterworth.
Oh, that's great.
He also played Dr. Jeffcoat or Mr. Jeffcoat on My Secret Identity, 72 episodes. And more recently, he was on 13 episodes of Kim's Convenience. Episode 4 is titled I Should Have Danced All Night. Ben wants to retile the men's showers, but Buddy proposes a challenge. Whoever is the last to fall asleep will have the final word on the matter. Melissa goes out with a guy she met at a Hollywood party despite Shannon's warnings. Playing who I presume is the person that Melissa goes out with, a gentleman named Arthur, is Nat Bernstein. Not really known as an actor, more of a producer. He produced 71 episodes of Doogie Howser, MD, also produced former entry The Gregory Hines Show. He's had quite a diverse career in terms of producing. He did 14 episodes of Ally McBeal, looks like season 2 of Ally McBeal. He also did The Weber Show, 3 episodes of that.
Yeah? What, Dad?
Did Mike just mention The Weber Show?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was distracted a bit. Yeah, you did mention The Weber Show. Of course, starring Steven Weber. Now, I want to mention 2 things. One, he also has a signed card in the Star Trek Rittenhouse set from when he was on Deep Space Nine. But second of all, as you all know, he was on Wings. And it was 297 episodes ago for when the first time ever I mentioned I love Wings. Can you believe now, guys, it's going to be 300 episodes since episode 300 where I mentioned for the first time ever on this podcast I love Wings.
It's a landmark moment. I'm glad that mentioning The Weber Show caught your attention like that. The title of the last episode is Mixed Nuts. When an acquaintance dies, Buddy fixates on his own mortality. Ben makes bold fashion choices in an effort to impress a salesgirl. Shannon becomes superstitious during her audition callbacks. Bernard breaks into the club at night to sleep. There's a lot of action going on in that final episode. We do have a name, though, in this episode, playing Martin. Don't know what his role in all of this is, but playing Martin is Mark Holton. And there's 2 reasons I mentioned Mark Holton, because he played 2 of the most important roles in 1980s movies. First, he played Francis on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And second, he was the guy in the crowd in The Naked Gun, the original, who stood up and said, "Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo!"
And then everybody stood and yelled, Enrico Palazzo! Enrico Palazzo!
So, again, not really a well-known name, but the thing is, 2 roles. And literally, you could just be like, okay, what did you do in your movie career? I've never heard of you. And he says, I played Francis in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I was the jerk in that movie. But at the same time, I'm the guy with about like 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left in the Naked Gun movie who stood up and said, hey, it's Enrico Palazzo. It's amazing how one person's career can be defined in, well, one legitimate role in terms of being in most of the movie, being a central character, but one literal 5-second soundbite, little clip, that's his career. That's all you need to know. Not saying he hasn't done anything else. He's done quite a bit else, but those are the 2 roles. That's it. And speaking of that's it with this series. 5 episodes. Something must have happened. Let's take a look. Maybe we can figure out what did happen. Shaping Up aired on ABC on Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Man, this is, I'm not going to say a bad lineup, but yeah, this is not the strongest of lineups. You start off with Foul-Ups, Bleeps, and Blunders, which is basically Don Rickles hosting ABC's version of TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes. But then at 8:30, you have AKA Pablo. Enough about that. Then 9 p.m., it's the final season of Three's Company. Then you have Shaping Up at 9:30, and then Heart to Heart at 10, and I do believe this is the final season of Heart to Heart on ABC. Pretty sure it made the move to NBC after this season. The competition on CBS, it went up generally against a movie or some 2-hour special. It was the second half hour of a movie or a 2-hour special. On NBC, though, I don't know if you're going to be beating the second half hour of a pretty good newcomer on NBC at this point, Riptide. You're not beating The Robot. And Tom Bray. And Perry King.
And Joe Penny.
All of them. You're not beating that whole combination. You're just not beating The Robot. That's all I'm saying. The Robot kicked so much butt. Did the ratings agree with the schedule? Well, let's take a look. I actually have ratings for all 5 weeks. We'll start with week 1. Out of 72 shows, Shaping Up came in at 32nd. So that's above the halfway point. Not a bad start. It did, however, lose some of its audience from Three's Company. Three's Company that week was 16th. That's good in some respects, not good in other respects. Week 2, out of 69 shows, just say it, Paul.
Happy 69.
Yeah, out of 69 shows, it came in at 37th. By comparison, Three's Company was 21st that week. So again, it's not retaining the audience. For the 3rd week, out of 64 shows, Shaping Up came in at 39th. Three's Company was 17th. So you see, it's not retaining viewers. That may be a reason why it went bye-bye. For week 4, out of 64 shows, Shaping Up came in at 35th. Three's Company was 18th. For the final episode, out of 64 shows, this is a bit of a plot twist. Out of 64 shows, Shaping Up finished 5th. And I'm guessing the reason why. This may have been Three's Company's final episode or one of the final episodes. Three's Company ended up as the 4th most watched show that week. So the ratings, yeah, they just weren't there. It did lose a lot of viewers from Three's Company. So I think that may explain why this didn't get past 5 episodes. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, there's no video online, so you can make some sort of justification as to whether it was a decent show or was it just crap that ABC put on the same night they had other crap, aka Pablo, Foul-Up Sleeps and Blunders. Just saying, ABC in 1984 was not the place to go for really good comedy. A couple years earlier, sure, but nothing really good comedy-wise came from ABC, at least new stuff in 1984. What can we say about Shaping Up? It had Leslie Nielsen. That's great, especially if he was still in that sort of goofy role like he was on Police Squad, like he'd later do on Naked Gun. If he was that sort of goofy character, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. At the same time, he did have a little bit of sex appeal with Jennifer Tilly and maybe Jake Steinfeld, kind of, sort of, a little bit, and Sean Weatherly. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate into viewers, and Shaping Up, it was told to hit the showers, and it just became a thing on TV. You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time. Hey guys, I'm talking to the listeners. I'm not talking to you two. You guys, the listeners, if you haven't done it already, go vote on the viewer's choice, because that's what we're going to cover first thing next week. There's 3 options. Pick one. We're going to cover it here next time. And then, as always, the 2 losers we'll cover at some point in the next year. So we can't even really preview what's going to come up on the next episode because it's all you're doing. Make a smart choice. In other words, don't vote for my thing. But you don't know which one I put up, so ha. So that's it. That's the episode. Come on back next week, next Tuesday, and find out what y'all voted for right here. It Is a Thing on TV. Thank you to Greg, and thank you to Chico, and thank you for listening and also contributing with the vote. Come back here Tuesday to figure out what you guys want to hear about.
Wow! Keep your body free for March 20th.
Chest 37, waist 23. No change since 2:30.
The mating game has never been the same.
Get your fertile bodies in here!
Everybody's Shaping Up. A very physical comedy premiering Tuesday, March 20th at 9:30, 8:30 Central and Mountain.
I, for one,